Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome into Good Morning Lambeau on this Saturday, December 14th, 2024. Excited to get in here and talk ball with you guys and gals about the Green Bay Packers as we're one day away from Sunday Night Football in Seattle. Playoff implications pretty much on the line. We know this game is going to factor into the playoff hunt as we get a little closer to that final week of the season. So we got a bunch of stuff we're going to dive into. I know the chat's already lit up. We got a couple poll questions out there. Make sure you guys vote on your way in. There's also a poll question on Twitter I'd like y'all to hit on. And we'll just kind of testing the pulse of Packer fans. Before we get into everything, though, let's give a quick shout out to the good folks over at Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. Wisconsin, based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They're Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description. That'll send you to their website, theticketking.com. You can register for free there as a customer and go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that's Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live. All right, Tim, we got a lot to get into here, man, as the chat is already lit up. Everybody filing in. Appreciate y'all making us part of your Saturday morning. As I think we got Army-Navy today. There might be another game or two, but not a whole lot of college football going on today as we're getting ready for the playoffs next week. And we may hit on that a little bit, too, as I've been kind of diving into some of the top prospects on the consensus big board and seeing
playoffs.
Who's actually in the college football playoffs. So let's just start right off the bat, man. Again, we've got Tim live in Green Bay. You guys know who he is. He's a celebrity on this show. Let's jump right into the chat real quick.
Got jokes already. I like it.
Yeah, absolutely. So Packers Kingdom said, I want to draft Mock Green edge for Marshall. Let's see. He is fast off the edge and he can rotate. Or Kyle Kennard, South Carolina's piece. Maybe get both. Trade in Igbare this offseason. He's just a roster waste. All right. So Packer Kingdom coming in here hot right off the bat. He also said we need a really good backup to LVN and Gary. So he's focused on that rotation. Got it. I kind of feel like Igbare is, in my opinion, but I could be wrong there. Yeah. Packers Kingdom says maybe trade back and acquire a day 2 pick for we could pick twice in day 2, double up on edge. You guys know I'm big fan of trading back into the second and third round as opposed to taking one swing in the first, one swing in the second, one swing in the third, because it does seem like we tend to struggle a little bit there, at least here recently. So, Tim, you got anything to add to what Packer Kingdom had to say there, man, as we move through the chat here?
I wouldn't go as far as to say JJ and Igbare is a waste of a roster spot. But I do understand the logic of trying to double up on edge, trying to, maybe acquire additional pick. I get it. But yeah, I'm just, I'm not like the hugest JJ and Igbare fan in the world, but I feel like he plays decent football for us. And, if you want an upgrade, though, I can respect that too. But I don't think he's a roster waste, You
hurt me, Brett.
Exactly. There it is. There's the first drop of the day. All right. So the poll questions that we put out there for the listeners so you guys can kind of keep up and know what we're talking about here. On Twitter, I put a poll question up and I said, Packer fans, of these 4 positions, what do you think is the biggest need going into the final 4 weeks of the season? So, again, it's specified of these 4 positions. Now, we know there's going to be people in the chat going, well, those aren't your biggest needs. No crap, Sherlock. The point of the question is, if you had to pick between these 4, what would be the most important? So the choices: defensive tackle, cornerback, linebacker, and edge. As it sits right now, cornerback is running away with it on Twitter at 67%. Second is edge at 16%. Third is linebacker at 11.2%. And then coming in dead last at 5.9% is defensive tackle. So the Twitter folks, and this is always fun to do, to kind of compare and contrast from people who watch the show, they're in the chat, as opposed to just every Packer fan on Twitter that wants to vote on it, right? They're hands down, we need a corner first and foremost, over top of edge being second, linebacker being third, and then defensive tackle being fourth. And the fact that defensive tackle is dead last, Tim, it doesn't surprise me. That's the way the vote went, but you guys know how I feel about that. Now, when we go,
it surprises me a little. It surprises me a little, as much as people complain about the pass rush.
It's a great point, yeah. But again, when people complain about the pass rush, Tim, it's immediately we got to blame Rashawn Gary, right? It
Right.
can't be interior.
Couldn't possibly be anyone else on that defensive front.
Right. So other than the guy who's leading in pressure percentage, leading in sacks, and but when you look at the YouTube poll question we put up, which of these four positions do you see as the biggest need with 4 weeks to go? Cornerback in the YouTube poll question is also leading the way at 60%. Defensive tackle is second at 27%, just changed to 25%. And then linebacker and edge tied at 6%. So it seems like people who are on the show here lean more toward defensive tackle as opposed to the Twitter poll. However, cornerback definitely still in the lead there. Now, maybe there's still a little hangover from the draft last year, Tim. People were pissed off that we didn't take a corner. We thought they would. We thought they would allocate some resources to it. Obviously, we talked about it every mock draft we did. We took 2 to 3 corners, didn't we? So
yeah, I mean, we ended up taking one, right? We took Kalen King.
The 7th
round. So yeah, I understand. But I've kind of come around to your school of thought too. You've said this before that you just don't feel like cornerback is one of those top tier positions that you're gonna burn a first round draft pick on necessarily, unless you're just absolutely decimated back there in the secondary. So I mean, I was okay with the fact that they at least took one corner. We were all a little surprised we didn't see it in the earlier rounds, though, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think Ron Samuel's onto something here. He says people voted corner because Jai is out, including me. And that's the thing. Like, that, what this poll question really tells you is people aren't expecting Jai to come back next year. That's what it feels like. Because I think if you could guarantee, and we know we can't, but if you could guarantee voters, hey, listen, Jair is going to be 100% next year. He's going to play every single game. They're probably not as high percentage voting for corner, but that is the reality of the situation right now, man. I mean, you're talking about missing over 50% of the snaps the last however many years. That's a rough look. It really is, man.
Yep.
And I understand, like, no one's saying the injury he has right now isn't serious. It seems like the conversation sometimes steers towards, well, you don't understand how significant this injury is. No, I got you. I understand it's significant. What about everything else, right? And also, I mean, we got to remember, too, the suspension. Like, that was a thing, too. Like, it's just, I don't know. I can understand both sides of the argument, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But, yeah, I think Ron makes a great point right there for sure. Nick McSwain said, kind of a toss-up between defensive tackle and cornerback for me. Better cornerbacks would mean more time for the pass rush to get home, but better pass rush would mean getting to the quarterback quicker, right? And yeah, I think that's a great point. To me, though, you can scheme around a great corner. You can't scheme around a great 3-tech in combination with a good edge, right? It
was fun watching teams trying to scheme around Aaron Donald all those years.
Oh my God, man. and what's crazy is, like, the Packers had the number one answer. They just said, you know what, Elton, go out there and slap him in the mouth. And that's exactly what he did. It was awesome. They didn't allocate any extra resources to him. They didn't say, hey, look, we need to double up here. It was just real simple. If he lines up in that 1-tech on Elton's side, just let Elton take care of business. And he did. That was a lot of fun. And
it was fun watching that game because you could tell even Aaron Donald was kind of like, I don't know what to do with my hands. He was like surprised that he wasn't getting doubled, Yeah,
he was pissed. And that's why it got a scuffle started a couple times and all that, because of you can see the frustration on Aaron Donald's face for sure. All right, so that was Nick McSwain. All right, here we go. Jen Wright said, is new D-line coach an option?
You heard me, Brett.
She went on to say, special teams is not a liability, can't help the new rules, talking about that. Now, let me hit that real quick, and then we'll come back to her comment on the defensive line coach. I got another message last night. This was through email, I believe it was, yeah. Michael Smith emailed me and said, the Packers have arguably the best punter, a reliable kicker with 2 game-winning kicks, good coverage units, and a couple of good returns. So I don't understand why making – let me drop that comment down real quick. Hopefully I don't lose it. Why making a change at coordinator is even a question. I almost forgot a blocked field goal to beat the Bears. So that was Michael chiming in. So I think we could finally put all that to bed with the special teams coordinator talk. It seemed like it was like right at 80%. Like, nah, we need to keep Rich Bisaccia. And then also, like Michael pointed out, I love that Michael pointed out, those are like, if those 4 things don't go the special teams' way in those games, we might lose those 4 games. I mean, think about it. We definitely lose the Bears if it doesn't get blocked, right?
Yep. Thank you,
Carl Brooks. Yeah, exactly. If you miss the game-winning field goal, give me some Carl up there on the screen. I need to see that face real quick.
This guy. I'll find him.
Where is this guy? So
here's the guy right there.
Obviously, the game-winning field
Looking
goal.
like Clayton holding a bowl of elk stroganoff.
That's right. We need to make that Photoshop happen. By the way, where's Smitty when you need him? Hopefully, Smitty's doing well. I know he was dealing with some health stuff, if I remember correctly. So I need to reach out to him and check on him for sure. Same thing with Eric Sutherland. I know he was had a son in and out of the hospital, so we need to check on him as well. But yeah, so I don't know, man. When it comes to special teams, maybe I've set the bar so low, but I was blown away that there was the Rich Bisaccia slander. But we're going to put that behind us now. I feel like we got the answer we looked for. My question was, okay, do we want him back or not? Like, let's get this out. And okay, we do want him back. All right, let's move on. Right?
Yeah, and with special teams, it's important to identify what if you're upset about something, what specifically is it? Because you can't just say, special teams is terrible. It's like there's a lot of different phases of a special teams unit. And there's also more that Coach Bisaccia brings to the table for this team than just being the special teams coach. We talked about that last night. He's our assistant head coach as well.
Yeah. Nick in the chat said, don't Packers have the second most block kicks since Bisaccia got hired? That may be true. I'm not sure. It wouldn't surprise me. Joseph in the chat said, Rich is going nowhere. He said, I'm standing on that wall. Ain't nobody going to knock me off that wall. So there you go. All right. So back to what Jen Wright said about defensive line coach. What happened, Jim, was remember our edge defenders, over the last couple of years played pretty darn good, right? Outside of this year, obviously the whole pass rush unit took a dip. So our outside linebacker coach, which was our edge defender coach, essentially, was Jason Rebrovich. Okay, so he's had success in the past with that. When we switched to a 4-3, they changed Jason Rebrovich from just outside linebacker coach, because in a 34 defense, the outside linebackers are the edges, to defensive line coach. And then Jeff Hafley brought in Coach Vince Ogabasi from Boston College to be the assistant defensive line coach. So essentially, Rebrovich has the title of defensive line coach, but it's obvious with his history and his past, he specializes in edge defenders, defensive ends, and outside linebackers in a 34. So I'm assuming that he's probably delegated some of that coaching the interior defensive line to Ogabasi, and he's really keying in on the edge. Now, it could be Rebrovich is running the whole show, and he's got the whole defensive line, and Ogabasi's just kind of that helper. That could be the case too, but just based off of their history, because Ogabasi actually played ball. I think he played for the Colts, I believe, when he made it to the NFL. Huge human being, interior defensive lineman himself. So, that's kind of where you sit there now. So since we're talking about this, we'll go to Twitter.
Quick, I wanted to just say that I think maybe Coach Ogabasi is a little bit more involved than we think. You look at some of those shots from game day, and you see they always do the booth shot, and you see the coordinator shot, and Coach Ogabasi is like directly behind Jeff Hafley in almost all of these shots. I really do think that he's probably taking more of a leadership role with some of the interior guys on that line. And I like Coach Reb. If you guys get to a training camp, man, bring the earmuffs for the kids, because that guy uses colorful language all of the time with those players, and real intense dude. And that's what you want on your defense, right? You don't want a soft, quiet guy coaching up your D line. You need someone that's keeping the piss hot, as we say, right?
Yeah, for sure, man. For sure. All right, so since we're talking defense, I was going to do this a little later in the show. Let's just jump into it real quick. First of all, if we just go defensive summary, okay, and this is on NFL Pro, and I'm going to try to get it to where you guys can see it a little bit. Oh, we got logos today. How convenient. This is awesome.
Here's a logo.
You guys know points per game, the most important statistic, in my opinion. When it comes to points per game, Green Bay is ninth in the league, allowing 21.1 points per game. So they're top 10 in scoring defense, okay? Next to that would probably be EPA per play, okay? That's expected points added based off the specific situation. So this is an efficiency grade, okay? And obviously, on defense, this is EPA allowed per play, okay? So the lower the number, the better in this case. So when it comes to EPA per play, the Green Bay Packers are 8th in the league. And that's per play, both run and pass together, okay? So you're seeing the 9th best scoring defense, the 8th best in EPA per play, right?
We got to check. We got to change the ticker. Hold on a second here.
Oh no, what happened?
You remember this? Quote, if the Packers have a top 7 scoring defense, I'll get an Emilio tattoo on my left butt cheek, according to Mr. Jacob the Beard. So
y'all wonder why he ain't been on the show. You're right, man. We're sitting 9. Can they crack into that top 7?
Oh my goodness.
I love that he said top 7 too. Like I would have said top 5. I would have went all in, right? Like, hey, but cover. I love that he's just like 7 sounds good. 7.5, matter of fact. We'll set it at 7.5. So that's hilarious. I'm glad you pulled that up, Tim. So EPA per play overall, they're 8th. So again, top 10 in scoring, top 10 EPA per play. Now we've already talked about yards per pass attempt, yards per rush attempt. We've hit on all that. So we're kind of covering it from a different angle here, right? So now let's go to pass defense. All right. EPA per pass, lowest number being the best. The Green Bay Packers are 11th in pass defense at negative 0.09 EPA per pass play. Okay. So that's where you sit there. You're right just outside of the top 10. And if I remember correctly, last year, we dipped to somewhere like 19 or 20 in pass defense. That was what really took a step back last year. The run defense actually got a little bit better last year. Not a whole lot, but a little bit. But the pass defense did take a little bit of a step back. So that's where we sit there, EPA per pass. The Packers are currently in the number 11 spot. So, again, right there, you're talking 9th, 8th, 11th, right? So we're right there, top 10, borderline top 10. We'll come back to pass rush in just a second, right? Run defense, we're going to go EPA per rush attempt. The Green Bay Packers are 10th in that at minus 0.09. So we're legit a top 10 defense. No matter what metric you look at, this is a top 10 defense, right? Now, when we talk about the weakness of this team, I think we would all agree the offense is definitely the strongest point. If you had to say, all right, which one's your strength, offense or defense, it's definitely offense. But our defense is not bad. They're not bad. It's just I personally think that in the moment, and I'm as guilty as anyone, when you're watching a game and you got your smartphone in your hand, you're ready to tweet when something goes wrong. And I do love that there are some people that only tweet when things go wrong. They never tweet when things go right. They're sitting there and they're waiting, right? They're waiting. And then when a play happens, like a 16-yard dig, right? This soft-ass defense, right? It immediately goes to that, and you're not taking the whole picture, the whole season into the picture, if that makes sense. So I think it's important to understand that, man, that we're a legit top 10 defense. And listen, we brung in some resources. We use resources to bring in players. You got Xavier McKinney that you brung in free agency. Hell of a signing. You went out and triple dipped in safety, right? With Evan Williams, Javon Bullard first. Then I think it was Evan Williams. Then it was Katano Ladapo. And what happened out of those 3? Bang, you hit on one with Evan Williams. So the safety room's fixed, right? That's going to make a difference too. Part of me almost wants to see what Hafley would have done with our exact defensive roster last year. That would be the true gauge. But obviously, we ain't got a time machine. We can't go back and do that because the roster definitely got better. There's no two ways about that. Which would you rather have, Xavier McKinney or Darnell Savage? I don't think anybody's voting for that.
Stop it.
Yeah. So
hey, that's what you do if you're committed to winning, right? You're not going to bring in a new DC and then be like, all right, here's the same truck. We didn't change the oil and we didn't put any air in the tires, but go win the race. You're not doing them any favors. So I think it's fair to say that, but I think it's also fair to consider that it's both, right? It's Goody cooking with this roster, and it's Jeff Hafley cooking with the 43 defense right now.
Yeah. And Nick McSwain in the chat said, anytime a big play happens, it's prevent defense laughing emoji. It drives me crazy, man. It's like the amount of people that don't, and Nick's being sarcastic, in case people on the pod go like, why is he roasting Nick? No, I don't know what Nick means here. The amount of people on Twitter that don't understand what a prevent defense is mind-boggling to me. It's absolutely mind-boggling. The amount of people who have a huge following that don't know what a prevent defense is mind-boggling to me. But Donovan Schilling in the chat, still mad about my Savage jersey. We lose every game I wear it. Shaking my head. Hey, man.
No, put it in the donation box and take it and donate it.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I do, man. I'd take it to a local tailor if it's an actual jersey, get that patch tore off the back, put your name on it or something, or find a great fix in the history of the Packers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And Schilling comes back in and says, fire Joe Barry. There you go. Jen Wright, did you really even have to ask the question? That's what Tim said. Stop it about the Xavier McKinney, right? Exactly, Jen. All right. So again, now that we're all on the same page there, overall defense, what was it? 8th? No, scoring was 8th. Overall defense was 9th, I think. And then pass defense was 11th. Rush defense was like 10th, right? So we know legit top 10 defense in every metric that we've looked at, right? Okay, so now let's go back to the pass rush because we were talking about the pass rush, right? Of course it's going to do this. Let's try it.
I was going to say, is that the page? Was that the page? Sorry, no results for Green Bay's pass rush.
So everybody's talked about how bad our pass rush is, right? And last year, the big conversation was we don't have enough sacks. We don't have enough sacks, right? We had an extremely high pressure percentage, but a low number of sacks. It seemed like that was the constant argument last year. Well, here we are now, sack percentage. The Packers are sitting 15th this year at 6.7%. Now, is that good enough? In my opinion, no. We've been very vocal on this show. The pass rush has not been good enough this year. Like, it's definitely taken a dip. But you've got to ask yourself, how does the run defense improve so much and the pass rush dip so much in the same year? The answer is always on the tape. Go watch the tape. And you can clearly see that they're not pinning their ears back and going every snap. They're really focusing on stopping the run, especially in strategic situations, specific situations. So that's my answer. And again, you guys don't have to believe that. I'm not trying to convince anyone else to believe it. That's what I've come up with, and I'm satisfied with that answer. Like, okay, I see exactly what's going on. There's too much touch spying going on to just say that we're not keying in on other aspects, whether it's a quarterback scrambling. And by the way, Geno Smith this year, guys, he's been as good as anyone scrambling. So we got to – and I'm already seeing on Twitter people go, hey, we got to really get after him. We got to blitz him. We got to pin our ears back. And I'm going, oh, boy, you guys are setting yourself up for the New York Giants game all over again. And listen, we know Hafley isn't going to do that. He's going to try to touch spy. Whether they're successful at stopping it or not, that's a different story. Like when Caleb Williams ran on us earlier this year, we seen – you guys know I love Edgerrin Cooper. I think he's the best linebacker on the team. That's my personal opinion. But, man, he really underestimated Caleb Williams' scrambling ability with the angles he took and getting off that touch spy. So I think that's going to play a big role into how we handle this game too. So
true. That's so frustrating, right? You get your opponent in a 3rd and 8 or something, and they light you up with a quarterback run for 11 yards and pick up the first down. Frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. Raisin Green Bay Packer fans in the chat said, first live chat here. Y'all don't look at all like I would have thought after listening on Spotify for a while. Thanks for talking ball and keeping it positive. Let me tell you something, Bob. My wife would agree with that. She probably thinks I don't look at all like I should.
You hurt me, Brett.
No, I get that a lot, man. I've got a very, very weak voice, People have talked to me before, and they're like, man, talking to you on the phone, I thought you were going to be like 5'6" and tiny little dude. Because it's just I'm from Appalachia too. We don't put a lot. We don't really care about what we sound like. So that's the way that works. So, but appreciate you swinging through, man. You're awesome, buddy. Nice to see people from Spotify migrating into the YouTube channel too. That's cool.
Awesome.
All right. So pass rush, we hit on the sack percentage, right? Now here's the big number. You ready for this? Remember last year, quarterback pressure percentage was up, sacks were down. This year, sacks are up. Look at this pressure percentage. Just going to blow your mind here. Not really, because we've seen it, right? With quarterback pressure percentage, 29th in the league at pressure percentage, okay, at 30.2%. So the difference between obviously being 29th and being number 1 is roughly about 6% pressure rate, okay? So Gary, last I checked, was sitting at 13%. He's leading the team. The closest one, I think, was LVN at 9.5%, right? And then, of course, Kenny is like down to like 6%. So when we do these poll questions, hey, which position do you think is the biggest need? That's why you've heard me talk about, boys, we need another 3 tech. We got to come in and get a 3. Doesn't mean you cut Kenny. Doesn't mean you cut Devontae White. That they're on the roster. You don't want to absorb that cap hit. I think I don't even know. I wouldn't say they're very good players with how they're playing right now, but I think they're good. Now, Kenny last game against the run, dominant. Played really, really well against the run last game. So What you want to do, though, is add another piece into that room, and let's try to get someone to raise that level, right? And if he emerges as the number one, then when you come back in 2026, you can afford to restructure Kenny Clark or potentially let him go, right, and free up some cap. You can do that. You can go post June 1 to maximize your cap space for that current year if you really want to kind of go all in that regard. So, again, pressure percentage way down this year. I think I'm satisfied with the answer I have for myself, Tim. You have the floor. Do you agree with that? Do you disagree with it? What do you think about this pressure percentage being basically bottom 4 in the league?
I mean, I think I do agree with you, first of all. No shocker there. I'm usually in lockstep with you about 80% of the time or better. But no, it's true. And, it's really rare in this league when you even the top defenses, there's always a the scales are tilted either way when it comes to your pass defense versus your run defense, pressure rate versus sacks. It's really tough to, have your cake and eat it too. It's really, really tough to be awesome at both of those. Usually if you're making a concerted effort to be a good run defense, you're going to see, some fluctuations in your pass defense and your rushing the quarterback kind of thing. So I think it makes sense. Me personally, I'm a big fan of bend but don't break. I'm a big fan of we're better against the run. Finally, after years of watching this Packers defense get absolutely run over all of the time, it was extremely frustrating. So I'll take it right now. I'm personally okay. I do think that there is nothing wrong though with the sentiment in the fan base that we need to look at some of the talent we have here, and it might be time to start moving some pieces around and getting some new pieces in here at strategic positions. And I'm all for it. I really am. Yeah.
And to go back to quarterback pressures, we talked pressure percentage because I feel like that's a more accurate assessment of how effective they've been. We're actually 24th in quarterback pressures. Okay. So we're 24th in quarterback pressures at 149 pressures. All right. And really you're within 5 of being top 20. But again, it's because our defense has been on the field more often. Now, why is that the case? Why has the defense been on the field more often? In my opinion, first down pass attempts, right? I think that plays a role in it, but also them being able to move the sticks is going to make it longer sustained drives as well, right? So that's probably got a lot to do with it too. So Chase Green in the chat said, the pass rush concerns are BS in my opinion. Stop the run and don't give up explosives are more important.
Amen.
And here's the thing, yeah, Chase, you're preaching to the choir here, man. And, I didn't just come up with that and go, what I think is important? No. I'm studying coaches. This is what coaches deem as the most important thing. That's why the quarters coverage with Vic Fangio became so popular, because it was like, okay, how do we stop explosive plays in the passing game? Well, let's play with a 2-high shell with quarter principles. We can mix in cover 2. We can mix in cover 6, cover 9, cover 4, cover 7, all that. And let's make the quarterback think without gathering information pre-snap, because we're going to start with a 2-high shell, right? Meaning he comes out and goes, all right, they gave me no tips on what they're doing. I got to read this thing out. And more times than not, the quarterback's going to struggle doing that. And they're going to revert from taking the shots because he's got to respect the fact it's a 2-high shell and they're probably in quarters. So you're playing to the defense's strength if you throw the ball deep. That's how you control the explosive plays in the passing game. How do you control the explosive plays in the running game? You got to identify what are the top explosive play types in the running game. It's outside zone stretch plays, okay? So what happened was teams started going to that wide 9 look. So when Matt LaFleur made his change from Mike Pettin, what did he do? He said, give me someone who will run quarters coverage and give me someone who will play wide 9 tech. That's how they came up with their defense. Now, the defense played great the first year under Joe Barry. You guys remember, huge improvement. It was like, hey, we're off the races. Let's go. Year 2, slight step back. Year 3, pass defense took a step back. Run defense climbed up just a spot or 2, right? So kind of went stagnant. I think the bigger issue was there were players in the locker room that did not like playing that style, right? And that's why they kind of moved on from some of those players and Joe Barry, right?
Yep. And that's why you see the difference this year. You see guys are bought into the system and they're playing within the scheme.
Yeah, exactly. So again, what are we running the most? Now, here's what's crazy about last year. People said this quarters coverage work. It doesn't work. It doesn't work. We weren't playing quarters last year. We played middle field close, 5th most in the league, meaning single high safety. So we were playing a lot of cover 3 match as opposed to quarters, which is a match match defense, but it's done out of a quarters look, meaning there could potentially be 4 deep defenders every play. So this year we pressed into cover 3 a little bit more, right? And we're getting away from man, which is hilarious. I should be an absolute ass and pull up 5 or 6 podcasts where people are going, this is going to be aggressive press man defense all off season long. That's what the people talk about. I was just like, I don't know where you are getting this information from. Saleh doesn't do that, right? Hafley didn't do that at college. Hafley didn't do that at Ohio State. Hafley didn't do that at San Francisco when his DBs were out there. They were playing, people thought they were playing cover 4 out there, and they were really playing cover 3 match at that time with Saleh. So
it's a public service announcement. Believe it or not, you don't have to play press man to be aggressive on defense.
Yeah, exactly right. So hopefully we covered all that right there. Let's see, Jen Wright. I like what Jen Wright says here. We need a defense with the same attitude as Kraft has. And, listen, can I be negative for a minute, Jen? And I know I'm going to catch hate for this. And Tim will probably not like it because I know you're a Jair fan. Who's the leader in that defensive locker room? Going into this season, I think a good chunk of the fan base would say Jair. I do. I personally, let me ask you this. Who would you rather be your emotional leader on defense? And I could be completely off base here, and if I am, it's totally cool. Someone like a J.J. Watt in the trenches, bridge of his nose bleeding every game, right? Just completely disruptive. Or a cornerback out on the outside who plays flashy and talks a lot. You know what I'm saying? Who would you rather have? Like, who was the leader on Lombardi's defenses, if you had to say? Like, there's a couple names that come to mind. For me, it's either Ray Nitschke or
Willie Davis.
Yeah. Those are the 2 that come to mind, right? Now,
and then you think about the 90s Packers, right? You're thinking Reggie White. You're thinking Leroy Butler, So,
yeah. So it's like what Jen's saying here, and Jen's probably going, Clayton, don't you couple me in that, Clayton. I ain't saying it shouldn't be Jai. That could be the case, but we need a defense with the same attitude as Kraft has. Kraft's got that attitude. I'm showing up every day to work. I'm going to play hurt. I'm going to be out there doing what I need to do, the dirty work. And I'm going to be that emotional leader from a stance of, hey, we're playing tough physical football. And I just don't get that from 23. That's just my personal opinion. I think he's one of the best corners in the game the last 5-10 years when he's healthy. But that's not the leader I want, man.
We're getting that leadership from Rashawn.
We really
we're getting it from Kenny Clark, too, down the stretch.
Yeah, and the problem with Kenny Clark, that's what Andres just said here, is Kenny Clark the leader of this defense today? I personally don't think Rashawn Gary is the leader, although I think his teammates respect the heck out of him. I think my answer is kind of what, as Jen asked that question, it's what triggered in my mind is I don't think we have one. I don't think we have that guy. I don't think we have that guy that's like, okay, this is the Ray Lewis that runs the show. This is the Fred Warner that runs the show. Like you said, this is the Reggie White. When Reggie White talks, everybody shuts up and listens, right? Same thing with Willie Davis. In a time where racial tension was through the roof, Willie Davis was the leader on that defense, So is Kenny Clark that dude? I want to say, yeah, Andres, he's probably the best choice. But the problem is you don't have current credibility with Kenny. Like his pressure percentage is a little under 7 or right under 7%, right? If you look at his PFF grades, they're in the tank, and I'm not saying that's everything, right? You look at his run stops and stuff, it's not toward the top of the league. And he is being paid more than almost anybody in the defensive line room across the entire National Football League. Holmes says it's X, in my opinion. That could be it too, right? He's a guy who's got that current credibility, and I think the players do respect him. It does feel like Jair, with this injury, has taken a step back, and X has kind of come to the forefront. He could be that dude. But sometimes it takes a full year to earn that respect of your teammates too, right? So
yeah, it's just like look at Edge Cooper. We're really high on Edge Cooper, and he's a rookie though, so we got to give that time to develop. But I certainly think he has that, non-existent or really high ceiling, and could possibly be one of those leaders on this defense moving forward. But yeah, right now, as it sits today, you're right. It would probably be Rashawn, Kenny, and X would be as close as you're getting to that type of leader, I think.
Yeah, Again, I think it's a great question. I do. If someone thinks it's X, I can't argue with that. If someone thinks it's Kenny, I can't argue with that. If someone wants to argue that it's Rashawn Gary, I can't argue with that. The problem with Gary, to me, being the quote unquote leader, is I think that the fan base has beat him up so much here lately. I think that does hold him back a little bit. Like I could see players in that locker room like, hey, I'm on Twitter and I see what the fans say about you. I ain't listening to you, type thing. I could see it being that too. So, Donovan Schilling says it's going to be Cooper, X, and Evan Williams next year. I can see it. I'll tell you this about Evan Williams. He impressed the hell out of me. When he forced that fumble, and here's a perfect example of what I'm talking about. Earlier in the year, he forced the fumble, right? Punched the ball out. They recovered it. Ja got the whole DB crew. Let's go celebrate. Evan Williams went straight to the bench, sat down, started talking to the coaches and stuff, right? And Jair comes over and was like, hey, every time when we go down there, you got to go with us, all right? That type of thing. And you could tell Evan just kind of laughed it off, but I like that demeanor. That dude, like, you've been there before, right? Like the Barry Sanders. I made 14 players miss a tackle on one play when there's only 11 on the field, and scampered for a 76-yard touchdown, handed the ball to the official, and went straight to the sideline. The other team looks over and goes, that boy's going to do it again. That ain't a big deal to him, right? So, and I do understand the juice that you need to bring, and that Jair is a spark plug when he's healthy. Like him grittying on Justin Jefferson that year after he, shut him down. That stuff matters too. Don't get me wrong, but we're just kind of
everyone needs their role, right? You do appreciate your Jair Alexanders in your locker room. I've made the comments before. He's like our Dennis Rodman. You're a 90s basketball guy, right?
Oh yeah.
Dennis Rodman was one of them dudes that, as good of a defender as he was, as good of a rebounder as he was at the game, man, could he talk that talk, and he could just mentally take an opponent out of their game, and you just knew you were going to get a win. And we saw that. You talk about the gritty game on Justin Jefferson. That was Jair taking him out of the game. We saw it with Stephon Diggs earlier this year at Lambeau Field. He took Stephon Diggs out of the game before it started. Diggs had 23 yards receiving or something that game. Just completely shut him down. So there is a room for that type of element in your locker room. But you're right. The hardest part with Jair is the fact that you're just not available. And it is what it is. It's, I don't know, pointing fingers and placing blame isn't really going to help us here. It is what it is. Half the time he's not available. And it's hard to get, excited or rally behind someone if you're not there consistently. So that's the sticking point with Ja right now.
Yeah, for sure. Prince in the chat says if they can get the win tomorrow, I would hope they sit Jair against the Saints and hope he is back for Vikings Bears. I think that's a very, very responsible way to approach it, Tim. He's out tomorrow. We can put that behind us. If they do somehow beat the Seahawks this week, go ahead and sit him for the Saints too. And then it's, hey, you got to be ready to go, dude. If you're not, then we're just shutting you down and it's over, right? You're done for the year. That's probably the best approach there, I would imagine. So,
I agree.
Yeah.
And I think as fans, we should, try and be a little more positive here. I know on paper it's like, oh, DK Metcalf, you got JSN, you've got Tyler Lockett, you've got Geno Smith is, humming that tater right now, and that offense is clicking. And oh man, we're gonna run with Stokes and Carrington Valentine on the boundary. It's like, let's try to get behind our guys. Let's try and look at the fact that if anybody's due for a great game, it's Eric freaking Stokes. And it would be really nice if that happened tomorrow night and he had a great game. Sometimes going up against the best brings out the best. So, CV and Eric Stokes, they're going to have their hands full all night long. And I'm just hoping that it really, unlocks that next gear and takes them to the next level in their game. And we see solid performances out of them. We know Valentine is capable of doing it. We've seen it before. Stokes, man, if he could come around and have himself a decent ball game, it's going to be really exciting to see those guys play well, in my opinion.
Prince in the chat says if they can get the win tomorrow, we already hit that one, didn't we? Let's see here. What's the next one we're going to do? Here we go. Packers Kingdom. Put Evan Williams in the slot and Zane at safety. I wouldn't be like crazy opposed to checking that out, Packers Kingdom. But the problem with it, in my opinion, is I think that Matt thinks really, really, really highly of Eric Stokes. And I think he's going to be the dude that gets started. They'll put Keyshawn in the slot. That would be my guess.
And I think Emilio had a point last night about Evan Williams too, coming off that concussion, that maybe we don't want to have him downhill too much and playing in the box as much. I don't think this would be the week they put him in the slot. I really don't.
All right, live from a Christmas parade in Redneckville, USA, Tennessee. We got Emilio. Emilio, is it getting wild out there?
Yep.
He's throwing candy.
Oh, candy's right here. We got it.
You got it.
Love it.
You got enough weight that you can.
Told you I'd hop in.
Yeah, appreciate you, man. You got enough weight on that candy though to be able to chuck it a good 20, 30 yards to hit a kid. That's the goal here, right?
You know it. I'm gonna hum that tater.
Yeah, listen, keep a good base. All right, keep a good base. Fundamentally sound.
Fire off the back foot.
Yeah, no sidearm stuff. Come on now.
All right, brother. Appreciate you checking in, man. Y'all have fun.
Yeah.
All right, that's Emilio. He just wanted to confirm for everybody he is out of bed. All right, he's not sleeping right now.
He's not in the race car bed.
That's what that was all about. He said, let me just show him I'm not in the bed. So Prince in the chat said, Jair unfortunately seems to like the role of class clown more than a serious vet like McKinney. I could see a little bit of that, but boy, he has created some awesome moments for us fans. There's still two ways about it, man. How many times have we hit that drop on here, right? Blake B in the chat. Don't forget we handled Waddle and Tariq with the same corner group. Great point. Great point, Blake. The great maybe yes says Puka had the same injury as Ja, and he was out for 6 weeks. Tim, how long has Ja been out now? This is a great measuring stick here, man. Do we know how many games he's missed? Somebody in the chat help us out.
Yeah, I want to say this is the 5th or 6th game he'll be missing. But here's the thing, though. I don't like going down this road because Clayton, you and I could fall down the stairs and break our knee. And your knee is going to heal how your knee is going to heal, and mine's going to heal how it's going to heal. You're going to have a different physical therapist than I will. Our doctors will be different. So when it comes to guys that have similar injuries, and Puka had this injury, he was only out 6 weeks. Now I'm not saying that's where this chat is going. I don't think it is. I think it might just be a comparison thing. Like, hey,
it's just a comp. That's all.
Yeah, it's a comp. Looking at hey, Ja, we should expect to see him back hopefully, but it's like it gets sticky when you do that because you never know. Hell, we were looking at Romeo with this concussion. Man, he missed 3 games with a concussion. We talked about guys that come back. We saw it with Quay Walker. He cleared the protocol right away and came back and was playing. So everybody's different. I agree with the comp, especially when you look at Puka Nacua and Jair Alexander. They're kind of like similar athletic body types, and the positions they play require a lot of cutting and turning and shifting and those kind of things. So when you're dealing with a bad PCL in your knee, it's good to make a comp like this, but it's also important to remember that everybody's different. And Jair's got more issues than just that knee. He had been fighting the hamstring and groin issues himself. He had an ankle issue earlier this year. We all know that shoulder is not the same ever since he lowered the boom a couple of seasons ago. So it's a lot. I think it's just a veteran player trying to stay out on the field, and it's disappointing for the fan base when you don't see him out there. Yeah,
for sure. So, if anybody knows what week that was that Ja got hurt, we could kind of comp it a little bit and go, okay, because we may, fan base might be being way too critical if you compare it to Puka. Like it might have been, 5 weeks since he tweaked it, right?
I think the Texans game is the last game he played in.
Yeah. So if it happened in the Texans game or that week, maybe at practice, it seemed like. So what week was the Texans game? Let's look at that real quick. Give me just a second here. Here we go. So the Texans game was week 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 6.
Right on the money. Just like the great maybe yes is saying here. So spot on right there with that comment.
Bring that up. Yeah. So, if the fan base gets to the point where it's like we're being too hard on Ja, like, hey, he should only miss 3 games. Puka missed 6, right?
Yep.
That needs to be comp. That needs to be taken into consideration. So here we go. Ron Samuel said, we were forgetting it sounds like Ja wants to play and the staff is shutting him down. Yeah, it sounds like Ronnie couldn't meet the requirements. He couldn't hit that. He couldn't max that test out. So I think it is worth noting, like you did there, though, Ron, that, hey, he wants to play. If he wants to play, that's great.
That's the other part of the equation, right?
Yep.
You know, if the player does what he can to get back on the field, if the staff does not feel like you're ready, then they're not going to put you out there.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't care if you're playing high school ball. It's the same mentality, right?
Yeah. Chase Green says injury happened for Ja versus the Jags in
Jaguars.
Week 8.
Okay.
So if it
5
was
weeks.
So if it was week 8, yeah. So it's 1 week, yeah. So we're still ahead of schedule here, right? So thank you, Chase. Thank you for looking that up, buddy. All right, that's going to do it for hour 1. For those of you listening on the pod, we'll see you on the other side for hour 2. We appreciate y'all. All right, welcome to hour 2. Tim, let's jump into Twitter. Let's just kind of – and some of this stuff we're just going to browse over real quick because we kind of hit on it since Jim brought up the pass rush and other people in the chat were bringing up the defense. Let's check on the poll question real quick. I'll read it off to you guys. As far as top needs on YouTube, 59% corner, 24% defensive tackle, 9% linebacker, 7% edge. So it's corner, then D tackle, and it's not even close. Corner's running away with it, cornerback. On Twitter, let me refresh this. The Twitter poll question is 66% cornerback, 15% edge, 12% linebacker, 5% defensive tackle is how that sits. So I appreciate everybody voting. I think that the lead is extended to a point where they're not going to come back, right? It's that the defensive tackle is not going to come back and beat corner. So the fans have spoken. They think that cornerback is definitely the top need going into this offseason. And people are going, Clayton, why are you doing the season ain't over? Because we forget how we felt going into the last quarter of the season. It's usually the last game that you think about, right? That you go, oh, crap, we need this. So it's important as you're coming down the stretch, here is what we thought, hey, this is really where we have a big need. And I think everyone would agree if Jair hadn't been hurt most of the year, then we probably wouldn't even have cornerback listed there, right, as the top need. It would probably be – because he's grading out like as the 11th best corner in the game. I think his passer rating when targeted, he's somewhere around 22, so he's a legit starting corner. You probably wouldn't be thinking about it as much. So it is important to kind of see where we were at going into the last 4 games of the year. Now, NBC Sports tweeted this out. Packers have come out on top against the Seahawks in recent meetings. More of the same on Sunday night, ? So going back to 2016, the Packers defeated the Seahawks 30-18. Then in 2017, the Packers defeat the Seahawks 17-9. In 2018, the Seahawks won that game 27-24. That was in Seattle. We always struggle in Seattle, seems like, as an organization. Then in 2020, the Packers won that matchup at Lambeau Field 28-23. And then in 2021, they beat the Seahawks 17-0. I was actually at that game. That was a fun game to watch in person for sure. I want to say that was Monday Night Football, I believe, if I remember correctly. So, all right. So just wanted to kind of give you guys a recent history there. It's been since, since 2008, I think, Tim, since we've won in Seattle. So,
yeah,
Packers got a chance to kind of put that to bed, right? And we'll
need to get it done. Be looking like that after the game.
Exactly. Pampered. Nick McSwain said, haven't won in Seattle since 2008, so he did confirm that. There you go. All right. Fred McFarley said Jair was active November 17th against the Bears, but couldn't finish the game. That's when we realized, okay, it's worse than we thought there. So if it was
there's a great example, right? You can't – I don't want to hear the whole, oh, he's not trying to play or he doesn't want to – that's BS. Josh's trying to be on the field, and he's having setbacks.
And November 17th versus the Bears, if that's when he truly tore the PCL, right, then that's week 11. It's only been 3 weeks since that.
Yeah.
So take that in consideration too, right? And again, they're not going to give you all the information of here's exactly when this happened. The team's going to keep that close to the vest.
It does look like something happened in Jacksonville, right? And he tried to make a go of it, made a go of it against the Bears, and then really tweaked something, and here we are. That's what it looks like to me.
Definitely. All right. Up next, let's look at this right here. Let's talk a little bit of prospects. And listen, I know there's some people that don't even want to think about the draft right now, just like there's some people that don't even want to think about contracts. I want to be really, really clear here, okay? You are welcome to tune in when you don't want to, okay? If this doesn't interest you, thank y'all for dropping by. Hit that like button for us, and we'll see you tomorrow, see you tonight, okay? But we're always going to look at this through the eyes of the team. What's the team focused on right now, right? It's not just, they're focused on the the season at hand and the playoffs coming up, but also the front office guys, they're scouting their asses off right now. And they're out here looking at these college football playoffs. I guarantee you they're going, all right, let's see who rises to the occasion on the big stage, because that could translate over to the National Football League. So what I went and did, just to give you some of the top prospects real quick, I said of the current leading NFL prospects, according to the consensus big board, there are only 3 of the top 10 participating in college football playoffs, okay? So the number 5 overall prospect, according to the consensus big board, is Abdul Carter, edge defender from Penn State. Number 9 is Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. And then number 10 is Michael, I'm not sure how he pronounces it, Williams, edge defender from Georgia. So those are some of the big names that are projected to go in the top 10, according to the consensus big board right now, that are going to be playing in the playoffs. So look for Penn State's edge defender, Abdul Carter, Texas's offensive tackle, Kelvin Banks, and then Georgia's edge defender, Michael Williams. All right. Now, if you look at that top 10, and we extended it here, right, here are your top 10 prospects according to the consensus big board right now. Shadir Sanders, number 1 in the league right now, or number 1 in the consensus big board, quarterback out of Colorado. They got him number 1. They got him projected going number 1 to the Raiders as it sits right now. Number 2, his teammate, Travis Hunter, cornerback / wide receiver, one of the most exciting football players you've seen come out of college since Charles Woodson. And I know that's a bold statement, but it's so true, man. This dude plays both sides of the ball, and he's just a freaking football player with the right attitude. He's as country as cornbread. It's so cool seeing him excel. That dude's going to make he has earned every dime he's going to make at the National Football League level. So he's projected to go number 3 to the Patriots. Number 3, Cam Ward, quarterback from Miami. No one picked him to be the top quarterback in this draft. And it's the perfect example of why it's important for us to really focus on college football when you get a chance. Cam Ward is playing his ass off. He's hands down leading in EPA per drop back. The dude is just a phenomenal quarterback at the college level. Again, he plays for Miami. Unfortunately, Miami got snubbed out of the playoffs, so we won't be seeing him in the playoffs. That's a missed opportunity, Tim, to see Shadur Sanders and Cam Ward in a playoff atmosphere would have been great. But again, their team didn't make it. So
playoffs.
Number 4, Mason Graham, defensive lineman from Michigan. He's projected to go to the Jets. Let me back up. Cam Ward is projected to go to the Giants, and Travis Hunter was projected to go to the Patriots.
Jets better trade up and try and get Cam Ward.
So you've got next, the Jets taking Mason Graham at number 7, defensive lineman from Michigan. At number 5, you got Abdul Carter. He's in the playoffs. We talked about that. Edge defender out of Penn State. He's projected to go number 4 to Carolina. So he is projected to be the top edge defender taken in the draft as it sits right now here on December 14th. Number 6, I can't say that first name, but it's McMillan, wide receiver out of Arizona. Evidently a stud. He's peaked at 4. He's sitting at 6. He's projected to go number 6 to the Titans. Tataria. Yeah. Anyway, that's Mr. McMillan. All right, that's
T-Mac. Call him T-Mac. T-Mac.
Old man McMillan's boy is who that is. All right. Number 7, you got Will Johnson. He is Mason Graham's teammate at Michigan, cornerback. He's projected to go number 5 to the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there's your second cornerback to go, depending on if a team wants to use Travis Hunter as a corner or a wide receiver. The consensus big board has him listed as a corner. Number 8, Will Campbell, offensive tackle from LSU, projected to go number 9 to the Bears. The Bears will probably screw that up. That's what they need, though. They need offensive line help for sure. They need to build the trenches. Number 9, you got Kelvin Banks, offensive tackle from Texas. He peaked at 3, sitting at 9. No projection for him as it sits right now, but he's a top 10 prospect. And then at number 10, you got Michael Williams, edge defender from Georgia. He's projected to go number 11 to the Saints. He peaked at 6, is currently sitting at 10. So that's how that sits right there. And here's just a quick look at the playoff bracket in case you guys want to try to check it out. We have the schedule as well. Matter of fact, we can just pop that up real quick, and then we're going to move through this quick. So the college football playoffs, and you got the dates listed here. It's probably hard for y'all to read. I'll read it off. You got Clemson at Texas. That's going to be December 21st. All right, so next week, 4 p.m. kickoff. All right. And then you've got Tennessee at Ohio State on December 21st. That's going to be at 8 p.m. on ABC and ESPN. Then we have, actually earlier that day, SMU at Penn State. That's a 12 noon kickoff on December 21st. One day before that, Friday night, I think it is, you got Indiana Hoosiers traveling to South Bend, Indiana to face my Notre Dame Fighting Irish, number 7 team in the country. That's going to be December 20th, 8 o'clock. That's going to be on ABC and NBC. So those are ABC and ESPN. I apologize. Those are going to be the first games of the playoffs if you want to tune in for that. So, again, those teams are – you got Clemson, Texas. You got Arizona State, Tennessee, Ohio State, Oregon, SMU, Penn State, Boise State, who's got the best running back in the league. He's the number 11 prospect going into the draft as it sits right now, according to the consensus big board. Indiana, Notre Dame, and then, of course, Georgia is how that sits. So that is your early college football playoff bracket. Like I said, just wanted to hit on it real quick, give you guys an idea of how that looks going into the playoffs there. So
playoffs?
We should dive a little deeper into the consensus big board, Tim. I can pull it up, or do you think we should? What do you think? What would you like to do here, man?
I don't want to get too caught up in the draft talk just yet, but it's always good to have a ear to the streets and keep your eyes on the future. I will say this: if we're talking about making improvements to this team, I would like to see Goody go ahead and knock another free agent signing out of the park. Kind of like he did with Xavier McKinney. And I don't know if maybe it's going to be tough pickings on the, defensive line aspect, but maybe there's a corner out there, or there will be a corner that we can snag in free agency to add to that secondary. And then we'll see where Ja's at. And if things go south with Jair, we'll have another veteran established corner that hopefully can be available. Just saying that's an option too, because it's so rare we see big moves in free agency, with the Packers. But, we saw a really nice one this year, bringing Xavier McKinney in. So I got to think Goody might have more tricks up his sleeve here, and we could see a combination of, drafting guys as well as maybe another big free agent signing, hopefully.
Yeah. Now, when you look at, we've talked about PFF grades, right? And when we looked at the cornerback position, we said Jair was the number 11 graded corner. Keyshawn Nixon was number 49. Then I think it was Valentine at 96 and Stokes at 98, right? So we kind of talked about it. If you were to just take those grades into consideration, you go, cornerback's good, guys. We got a solid number 1 corner when he's healthy, right? We're going to assume he's going to come back healthy, at least to this point. You get the number 49 corner. That's a solid number 2 corner, right? And Keyshawn Nixon. And you got a couple of guys that are right there in the ballpark of the 90s that can play that. So you might draft 1 or 2 here or there, maybe look to improve the room a little bit. That's not the only thing that's important, though, okay? So when you go to passer rating when targeted, which is what we got pulled up here, same PFF website, and we sorted by passer rating when targeted, Jair drops from 11 to 25. So he's at the 25th best passer rating when targeted amongst cornerbacks who meet the minimum criteria, which was 20% of the snaps. Okay, so we filtered out the guys who had less than 20% of the snaps of the top corners in the game. Now, when we slide on down, let's see where the next Packer is and who it is. As we get a little lower on the list here, got to go pretty far down, Tim. Keyshawn Nixon is 87th in passer rating when targeted. Okay, so what would that suggest? He's closer to a number 3 corner as opposed to a 2. So again, the grades suggest that he's the 49th best corner, but the passer rating when targeted, which is strictly a coverage metric, right, a coverage stat, suggests that he's closer to the 90 mark sitting at 87. Now, right behind him, Carrington Valentine at 88. So if you go strictly off passer rating when targeted, that would suggest that Carrington Valentine is just as good as Keyshawn Nixon in coverage, okay? Now, we know
I'm rooting for him to take another step. It's time, man. And tomorrow night will be a great opportunity for him to really step up and take that next step forward in his development. Because I think he's a better player than, we kind of give him credit for. And he's also a better player than really the numbers have indicated. You know what I mean? So hopefully going up against top tier receiver talent here is going to bring the best out of CV.
Right, and it's why the fan base is so frustrated that Eric Stokes continues to get these reps, these valuable reps over Carrington, or at least there's a rotation there, because Stokes isn't under contract next year. Valentine's playing just as good, if not better, than Stokes, and he's under contract for the next 3 years. It's like, why not go ahead and this is our guy.
Unless they're thinking like, throw Stokes out there and God forbid something happens, at least at least it happens to him and not to a guy that we're kind of building our future around in the cornerback room. You know, it sounds kind of brutal, but I mean, it's a business. It's a brutal game. You know, you got to be thinking we're a little thin at corner now. We didn't pick up the option on Stokes. All signs point to him being gone. We might as well, you know, burn the fuel out of the tank before we park the car, right? So I don't know, but we'll get an opportunity now to see without Jair out there, their rotation, nothing. They're both going to be on the field at the same time is what it looks like.
Yeah, exactly. All right, let's see here. Going back to the chat real quick, we'll clean these up, and then we'll get back to Carrington Valentine, Keyshawn Nixon, these guys. We'll show you where Eric Stokes is, too. Jen Wright says Jair has matured this year. I would agree with that. Would you agree with that, Tim? It seems like he's changed a little bit there.
I think ever since the suspension, I think that was a wake-up call. And we saw a change in his not a change in his personality or change in who he is, but a change in the way he conducts himself when he's working. And I would agree with Jen there. I think he's matured a lot.
Yeah. Fred McFarley says, I agree, Tim. Free agent cornerback. He struggles drafting them. Think about that. Goody drafting corners. You know, obviously Eric Stokes, I think it was a miss, right? What other corner has he drafted? I'm trying to think here, Tim. Help me out. Is there another one that comes to mind? I know we try to key in on first rounders, but when was the last time that Goody drafted a corner? Like last year, Kalen King was a 7th round pick.
Jair.
Yeah. I mean, well, Jair was that a Goody pick or was that a
I thought that was Goody's first draft, wasn't it?
So he did draft Jair. I think, again, is that a hit or a miss? I don't think there's a fan that would say that's a miss, right? He's played really good football when he's on the field, right?
Yep.
So, yeah. Again, when you go to attack free agency with cornerback, I wouldn't want them to go like, hey, let's go get the best cornerback because the market's going to be crazy, right?
Ooh, forgot about Josh Jackson, Fred McFarley in the chat. Remember Josh Jackson? That didn't turn out too well.
Wasn't there another corner they took that year? Was that the year they took Jair? I think it was. They took Jair. They took Jair over Josh Jackson, right? And I remember we ended up getting – people were upset that they didn't take Josh Jackson, and then they ended up getting Josh Jackson, I think, like a round or two later, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong there.
Shamar Jean Charles. Got Jared in the chat. Yeah.
Work out, did it?
That didn't – yep. Here's a guy.
So here's how I would approach cornerback and free agency if we decide, hey, that's the way to go. You go and you pull all of the cornerbacks that are going to be free agents. First of all, you got to make sure you're not setting yourself up for failure in a sense that some of these guys are going to get franchise tagged. They're going to get signed. You know, it's going to look like there's all these guys in free agency. And then when free agency opens, a third of them are gone, right? So you got to kind of know what that final list is going to be. And when you get to that point, what I would do is pull all them. And what Goody will probably do is he'll pull up all of his draft grades for all those. And the guys that he had high draft grades, they'll go to the top. And then they'll take that list, filter it on down, and watch the NFL tape of them, and then filter that down to a few. I think that's honestly how most teams approach free agency. They start with their draft grade. How do we feel about them coming out of college? If it was the same regime, obviously, if a new regime comes in, they'll bring their scouting department information with them as opposed to keeping the Packers. If it was another scouting department that was gone, that obviously doesn't apply, though, with the Packers. So let's see. Nick McSwain said there's quite a few cornerback free agents next year. No idea who will actually be available. That's what we were just saying, Nick, right? Yep. And then CJN says 23 or 25 million in cap next year. We can definitely go after a need. Now, you got to keep in mind that may be the cap space next year, but Jordan Love's contract really starts to hit the following year. Rashawn Gary's number jumps a bit, too. Now, that can be –
you got to pay Zach Tom, too.
Zach Tom's going to get paid, no doubt about it. There's going to be some guys on this roster now that aren't going to be here when we make that decision, that's for sure. Like, I think Kenny Clark will probably get restructured. I think Rashawn Gary's will get restructured at some point where you'll give him more guaranteed money but reduce the cap hit overall. I think that'll probably happen. We don't want to get too deep in the weeds with salary cap talk here. We could do a whole episode on that. I love that stuff. I just try not to bore people with the things that I like. Yeah, that's the only thing I would push back on a little bit there, CJ. And just because you got 23 or 25 million in cap next year doesn't mean you can spend all that, right? And they like to operate with like 7 to 10 million. Some people say 5 million.
We got to deduct that operating budget amount out of there.
Exactly. So that, and then also, you're looking to move money around to free up cap for the future too, Goody tends to lean in that direction as opposed to spin right now, right? And I think I agree with the way Goody approaches that too. I think he handles the cap. He kind of went all in with Rodgers there towards the end, right? Where we were like, hey, let's start really voiding some years and pushing it out and try to keep some guys here. And then once Rodgers left, all right, let's clean it up a bit. Now we're right back to the point where it's okay. Do we go all in? So CJM might be onto something though. We might look up next year and Goody goes, hey, let's restructure these contracts, add 2 or 3 voidable years on each of them, free up some cap space, and let's go all in right now for a 2-year window. That could happen. Yep. All right, appreciate that. And then Chase Green said, forget corner and free agent in the first 4 rounds of the draft. The Packers have been a good team for decades because of O-line, D-line, and quarterback. Let's not change our ways and draft or sign a corner who stinks. I don't think anybody wants to sign a corner who stinks, but I understand what you're saying. He's going to prioritize O-line and D-line. That's what we've always done. Precedent has been set there. I don't think they'll break the bank to go get a corner. I hope they don't.
We went O-line first round this year. Let's hope this next draft is D-line first round, depending on how it stacks out.
Yeah, it's always going to come down to best player available. But if you've got that cluster, let the positions of need be that cluster buster for sure. So I'm really – that's why we were thinking about pulling up the prospects to look at the top defensive line prospects and where they're falling. And do we got a few in range? But we'll do that for another day for sure. Fred McFarley says, Goot can teach a master class in drafting wide receivers, needs a tutor for cornerback. Hey, GMs and scouts are good at some things and not so good at others, right? I'm just bad at everything. That's the way that is.
You hurt me, Brett.
Exactly. So moving back along through this list here, Keyshawn Nixon, the 87th best passer rating when targeted, and that's filtering out that 20% noise we talked about in terms of snap percentage. Carrington Valentine at 88, and then Eric Stokes is at 98. Okay, that's where they're ranking in passer rating when targeted. So it's clear that Carrington Valentine is better than Eric Stokes. Like, that's where I'm having a hard time. Like, Carrington Valentine has a better passer rating when targeted. He has a better PFF grade. He's got more years on his contract, which would suggest, hey, let's get him some meaningful reps now so he'll be ready for next year too. I just don't understand the whole – and again, I'm not being egotistical. I'm not saying Goody's stupid for doing this. I'm trying to get my head around it. Like, why does Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur like Eric Stokes so much over a Carrington Valentine? I just can't.
What was Stokes? Was he wasn't a first-round pick,
No,
right?
he was a first-round pick. Yeah, that was another corner we took.
He was. Okay, well, there you go. That explains. We all know we stick with the first-round pick in Green Bay. We know that. Darnell Savage comes to mind. Luckily, though, with Stokes, though, see, that's the thing. Maybe they have tempered expectations and reality is setting in. That's why they didn't pick up the option. I think not picking up the 4th-year option on Stokes was a signal to him that, hey, you got to prove it prove it this year, and we can bring you back into the fold, sign you a 2-3 year deal or something. But we haven't seen that yet this year.
I think people truly don't understand what the 5th-year option, what teams use it for, and what the value is. I really believe that because, like, they think, it's one of those things that's like it's a benefit for the player. It's not a benefit for the player at all. It's a benefit for the team to go, hey, this dude is the best at his craft, one of the top 5. We can get him on another 1-year deal and bridge the gap to that extension. That's what was so mind-boggling about Savage is like when they picked up that 5th-year option, I threw my hands up and said, I don't know what the hell I'm talking about.
I don't want to pat you on the butt and you poop my hand. So,
but then when they refused Eric Stokes, it's like, okay, I get that, right? Because why would you make Eric Stokes? Why would you put the label on him that, hey, this is that dude, our cornerback of the future? There's just seen nothing there. So, and maybe it was Savage, Tim. Maybe it was, hey, we're worried that we won't have, like, if he goes, we're really screwed at safety, right?
Right. Well, that's evident. We'll look at the Band-Aids that we attempted to put on that safety room while he was here. We rotated guys in. We had the Adrian Amos experience. We, brought Jonathan Owens in and, trying to find a piece to stick back there with him. Mm-hmm. And it just ultimately never worked out. Yeah,
for sure. So, again, just want to take a quick look at the cornerback room. Let's see if there's another Packer. I doubt there is because no one's played meaningful snaps. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So,
I will say though, with Stokes, they were high on him just coming out of that Georgia defense, right? That's what we heard in that draft, right? Oh, he was. That was the crazy thing. I believe he had the reputation of being a man,
absolutely
man type of corner.
And there was an article written last year, Tim, that he's one of the fastest players in the top 20 fastest players in the league. So again, first round pick, you fall in love with the athleticism. It's like, damn.
And he had an excellent rookie season. And then,
let's see here. Let's go back through it here. Let's see if he actually did. Yeah. So remember, we always talk about if you grade out in the 60s as a rookie, it's usually a great sign, right? 65.5 for him as rookie year, right? So it's like, okay, we got something. I remember us thinking that. Yep. Then 2022, 53.7.
Then the injury.
2023 was the injury, 51 point, but he was a 51.5 before the injury. It wasn't like he was playing hurt. Oh, they shut him down. Like the injury happened, right? So he was already declining before he got hurt, albeit there was only 110 snaps.
I was going to say it happened pretty early. Not a lot of snaps.
Yeah, and then of course this year a 53.2. So you have to go off. Hey, look, he's a 50s player. That's what he is, right?
Right.
And then again, that rookie year though, man, with 988 snaps, it was promising. It's like, holy cow, Jair one side, Stokes on the other. This is exciting. But again, that was the year too, if I remember correctly. I want to say when Stokes came on, Jair took a dip back on grade, and they had switched sides. And I remember mentioning that hey, maybe it's a dominant eye thing for Jair. But we're just trying to piece
Stokes. Or Stokes, we talked about him with tracking the ball in flight kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I just think he's due, man. I'm going to try and be positive. I think we're going to get at least one good game out of Eric Stokes before it's all said and done, man. And I'm hoping it's tomorrow night because, there's this receiving core in Seattle is, kind of a cause for concern going up against this banged up Packer secondary.
Yeah. And when you look at Keyshawn Nixon and how he's graded out over his career, 30.6, 44.6, 77.4, 61.2, 60, 67.2. So that would suggest he's probably like a 65 player. And right now, with the way the cornerback room is stacked up, like you'll take that. Like that's one of your better corners.
You say right? He was a 65 player?
65%.
65%. That's if you take into consideration the 77.4, right? The 61.2, the 60, and the 67. Now, keep in mind that 77.4 only 81 snaps, right, in Vegas that year. So last year, I think, was the big thing, 937 snaps, and he graded out a 60. Like, listen, I know that's not great, but that's, hey, all right. When you start closing in on 65, you're all right. You can play in this league type thing, right? So that's where Keyshawn Nixon is set. I want to look at Carrington Ballantyne. I know it's just 2 years in, but I'm trying to remember what he did last year. I'm pretty sure he graded out in the 50s last year. And this year he's in the upper 50s. So I want to see if there's actual progress there or not real quick. And then we'll move along to the next topic if we have time here. Let's see here. Green Bay. Give me just a second. Where are these guys at? Where you guys at? Carrington Ballantyne. Let's see what we got here. So Carrington last year, 57.5, this year 53.9. So according to this, a step back, but keep in mind last year 806 snaps, right?
That's it. So I mean, the guy's playing less. Yeah. It's kind of hard to maintain your level of play if it's not consistent.
Yeah.
So that adds fuel to your point. Why is Stokes out snapping Valentine in some of these scenarios? I just don't get it.
It doesn't make any sense to me, man. The only thing I could come up with is they're expecting it to pop for Stokes any minute because he's still coming off of that injury. Like, okay, it's going to click. It's going to click. He's close. And that's where you got to really put the ego in check and go, all right, Hafley knows what he's doing. He's supposedly the cornerback whisperer, the DB whisperer, right? Not my opinion. That's what people like Richard Sherman and other great corners that have played for him have said. So we'll see, man. We'll see. But again, I can understand the concern around the cornerback position that fans think, hey, that's one of our top needs. Because again, if Jair is not, if he plays in less than 75% of the snaps next year, then you don't address it going into the year, kind of going ahead, coming back here, you're going to be in a tough situation. But same time, EPA per drop back, the Packers are a legit top 10 passing defense right now, too. So you got to take that into consideration, right? It's like it's working. It's just that emotional charge of during the game, oh, crap, there's another 16-yard completion. Fire Joe Barry. So, Coach Lynn, he hit the nail on the head, Tim. This Josh situation is so frustrating because you know what he can be. You know what he can be. So
things could be a lot worse. I could be a Bears fan.
All right. Let's see here. What else do we want to hit on? We don't have anything marked. We're good there. We're all caught up in the chat. Let's jump over real quick to, you know what, since we just got 5 minutes, Tim, and it won't be too excruciating, let's jump into the draft board real quick.
Oh, snap. Mock draft time. Let's go.
Now, let's see what the defensive line looks like in terms of consensus big board real quick, okay? Mason Graham, number 4 overall prospect out of Michigan. Kenneth Grant, number 18 out of Michigan. Walter Nolan, number 24 out of Ole Miss. Shamar Stewart, number 26 out of Texas A&M. Number 27, Derek Harmon, defensive lineman out of Oregon. He will be in the playoffs, so that's a guy to key in on, right? He's, like I said, out of Oregon. He's sitting in the 27th spot, projected to go number 17. And then number 32, Talik Williams, defensive lineman out of Ohio State. He'll be in the playoffs. And then Deion Walker for Kentucky. He plays for Kentucky, so of course he won't be in the playoffs. He's a stud, though. I watched him last couple of years in Kentucky. He's a big old boy, too, and he's got a lot of athleticism. Number 33 overall, peaked at 14. TJ Sanders out of South Carolina, defensive lineman. See, what you're really looking at here is probably from Shamar Stewart down to about Jordan Birch are in that wheelhouse that the Packers could potentially take a defensive lineman with the first or second round pick. Now let's go to cornerback since that's been the topic today. Travis Hunter, number 2 overall prospect out of Colorado. Number 7 is Will Johnson out of Michigan. Number 20 is Siobhan Ravel Jr. out of East Carolina. All right, pretty cool logo there. Number 23.
That's a cornerback name if I've ever heard one right there.
Exactly. Number 23, Benjamin Morrison, cornerback out of Notre Dame. I think he'll be gone probably before the Packers pick. Number 40, Jahdae Barron out of Texas, number 26 prospect. They have him projected to go number 26 to the Green Bay Packers. Now, again, that was for Texas, right? And you see Texas is in the college football playoffs. So look for Jahdae Barron in the college football playoff.
One of the top defenses in the country, too. Texas.
Exactly. So then you got Trey Amos out of Ole Miss at 48, and you got Maxwell Harrison out of Kentucky as well at number 56. How Coach Stoops still has a job is beyond me because he's got top prospects everywhere, and they stunk this year, Tim.
Oh, we're gonna give him some.
Should, man. You should. You hurt me, Coach Stoops. That's what it should be this year. Being a Kentucky
You hurt
fan.
me, Brett.
So, Tim, any position you want to see here, anything you want to hit on before we get ready to wrap up? We're at the hour 18 mark, so we got about 5-7 minutes, something like that.
No, well, I'll defer to Prince on this one. Show the centers. Let's add some sex appeal to our number 2.
Oh, let's do it. Interior offensive line. Now, listen, they don't show specific centers, so we'd have to do some digging to find who had snaps at the center position. But we'll talk about the interior offensive line. Tyler Booker from Alabama, number 30.
Here's the guy.
Jonah number 34 out of Arizona. All right. He's projected to go number 13 to San Francisco. So he obviously
Saviania? Is that how you say that?
That sounds good to me. Number 52, Donovan Jackson out of Ohio State. So he'll be in the playoff. Look for him. All right. Donovan Jackson, interior offensive lineman, Ohio State. Armand Mimbo out of Missouri, number 73. You got Tate Ratledge, number 78 out of Georgia. And then number 109, Dylan Fairchild out of Georgia. So you got a couple of Georgia Bulldogs playing together there in the interior offensive line. Now, here's the thing, too. When we talk about
– do we draft guys from Georgia in Green Bay? Does that happen?
Tim, I think we do. It's a little bit of a pipeline. Some people go, yeah, we do. But I know listen, I think Georgia, I think they're producing good football players. It just hasn't panned out for us as well as we've once seen that we've taken, 3 first-round picks now, right? So all 3 are starters, I guess you could say, right? But nonetheless, when we say interior offensive line, or we're talking specifically center, keep in mind, guys, that if they like one of these guys at guard, right? And we really should be looking at tackles because they love drafting tackles and converting them to guard, right? But if they like one of these guys at guard, then you're looking at Elton Jenkins probably kicking the center. That's what it feels like to me. Zach Tom's going to stay at tackle.
Yeah.
Elton Jenkins could
Zach
potentially
Tom wants tackle money.
Yeah,
that's the other thing. So, yeah.
And if one of these interior offensive linemen are predominantly centers, though, then maybe you draft one of these guys, and of course you keep Elton Jenkins at left guard. That could be a thing too, and you could continue with the rotation there with Sean Ryan and Jordan Morgan at right guard until one just absolutely runs away with it. So, yeah, like right here, this is and listen, I know the Goody lovers are going to roast me here for even talking about this, okay? But I've been roasted before. I'll be roasted again. We're going to talk about it a little bit. Siggy in the chat says, we picked Stokes at 29 over Chargers Asante Samuel at 47 in the 2021 draft. That's a real thing, right? If his numbers are correct there, that's a problem. Asante Samuel Jr., yeah, where does he grade out? Because I feel like he was toward the top. We already closed it out, didn't we?
He's definitely top 25-ish range.
Yeah, I want to say he's up there. So now, again, people in the chat, I know what you're thinking. We took Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey. That's a real thing too, right? It is. And it sucks, but
Evan King over TJ Watt. We'll never forget that one.
Everybody still talks about it. And listen, I understand the people that get frustrated over that because that's a real thing. I don't understand the people that get pissed when people point it out, though. You know what I mean? Because it's like, you can redraft today. You're telling me you wouldn't take that player? Well, yeah, but still, everybody misses. That's a boring conversation to just say, well, everybody, okay, there's no reason to talk about any of this. Everybody, end all your Packer podcasts. We can't talk football anymore because none of this matters, is what you're saying. That's silly. That's silly talk. So I guarantee you the front office isn't sitting back going, I know we missed on that, but who gives a crap? They're going, how did we miss on this? Yep. I promise you that. So All Good says, what about edge? Edge defender, Abdul Carter with Penn State, number 5. Mikael Williams at number 10. James Pierce Jr., pretty solid player out of Tennessee. I've watched him play a lot. He peaked at 1. He's now at 14. Nick Scourton, I hope I'm saying that right, number 15 out of Texas A&M. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas at number 35. JT Tuamaloa, I think I've got that. Yeah, I think we got that. Out of Ohio State, number 37. Jack Sawyer, I think he's a team captain at Ohio State, number 39. Now, when you get two of the teammates together like that, you got to be careful because most of the time it's because one's drawing more attention than the other, and that's what's making the other dude look better. We've seen that time and time again. I'll give you an example. PFF, when Chase Winovich and Rashawn Gary came out in the draft, they were on the same Michigan defensive line, okay? When they came out in the draft, PFF was saying Chase Winovich is going to be the better pro. Rashawn Gary's the weaker of the two. You're going to see this. Chase Winovich is no longer in the league, to the best of my knowledge. Rashawn Gary is one of the top edge defenders in the league. Like I said, his pressure rate right now is 3% higher than TJ Watt, who's having a down year too, but nonetheless, Rashawn Gary was the better player than Chase Winovich. There's no two ways about that. So that's an example right there, right? PFF was standing on the table of, hey, Chase Winovich is the better pass rusher and over Rashawn Gary, and they were wrong. Typically, one of the two. It's very rare that you got two guys that play alongside each other at specific positions, and one of them is not great and the other is not bad. That makes sense, Tim?
Yeah, definitely.
All right, cool. Let's see here. Look at Anton asking a tough question. Chat, if you could do it over, do you give back Reed and Wicks to get Brian Branch?
Hell no. Nope.
I'm thinking about it. I'm sitting here going, all right.
I'm not thinking about it.
Brian Branch, one of the best safeties in the league. But let me add this to it, Anton. You can't have Evan Williams, though. Which would you rather have? Let me ask it this way. Which would you rather have? Would you rather have Tay Wicks, Jaden Reed, and Evan Williams along, with McKinney? Or would you rather have Brian Branch with McKinney without the others? I'm probably going with the 3 players. You know what I'm saying? So it's a good question, though. It's a good question. You're probably going to get roasted in chat the way I'm looking at it here. But I'll pause.
Me? I don't care. I've been.
No, I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about. I was looking at the chat, seeing because Fred McFarley said it best. He said, "Oh, damn." It's going to be a conversation.
Here's the guy.
Let's just hit the chat real quick, though, okay? Holmes said no, okay? So he disagrees. Let's see. Things. Holmes says we don't need Branch. Coach Lynn says no. Anton said he would, of course. Fred McFarley just said, oh, damn. Holmes says Branch is dirty just like the other clown. So it's more of a personal thing there, I believe. Fred McFarley says if you have Branch, maybe we don't sign X or draft Williams. That's what I was kind of getting at. So, yeah. I would rather have Evan Williams and X than just Branch, right? But, again, you could have them both, right? So, Carl Ward, last one, we got to get out of here. No, keep Reed and Wicks. So, that's his opinion. There you go. All right. And Anton's trying to sell him on it now. He said, remember Brian Branch plays cornerback too. All I could think of is Danny DeVito in that movie holding up those used car keys. So, all right, that's it, guys. We're out of here. Tim, you got anything else you want to hit, Bob, before we go?
No. Looking forward to pregame. Getting ready for this matchup tomorrow night. I'm sure we'll have a lot more to break down tonight as we look at the game out in Seattle, taking on the Seabirds. And I just hope, we talk about corner. I hope we get a good game from Valentine and Stokes. I think it's time, and I think they're capable.
There you go. All right, that's going to do it, guys. We may do a morning show tomorrow, we being me, unless Tim's available too. I might. It just depends on, what's going on in the morning. We're definitely, like Tim said, going to be doing a pregame show 1.5 hours before kickoff. So we're basically an hour and a half before kickoff. We're going to take you up to about 30 minutes before kickoff, give you all the actives, inactives, get you set for the game, then give you time to grab a cold drink, settle in. And then, of course, we'll be going live immediately after the post-game show at 3 a.m., I'm sure, is what it'll feel like. So as soon as the game's over, we'll do a post-game show and bring you all that. Again, this is the final reminder. By midnight tonight, you have to be a member, a YouTube member, or a member of the PTA Posse over at Patreon. You can scan the QR code in the upper right, Packer Fan Total Access. I think it's patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access, or just go to that QR code if it'll work for you. And make sure you're a member of one of the 3 tiers on there, okay? You do the cheapest. That's cool too. If you're a YouTube member by midnight tonight, along with those 3 tiers there, we'll put you into the contest to win the autographed Lucas Van Ness jersey like this one right here, okay? Comes with a certificate of authenticity. It's the home green style jersey. It's done by Beckett. So that's what we'll be giving away. That's just a way for us to give back to those who are supporting the channel. So make sure you get that in. Tim, thank you for your time, bub. We'll see you guys possibly tomorrow morning, but definitely for the pregame show. Everybody have a great
And we go.
Bye, guys.